Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Well, hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders with Marketing Huddle, and today we're privileged to have with us Dan Bisig and Ryan Clark, who are the authors of a brand new book that is out that everyone that has a child that may one day go to college need to read this book called The College Entrance Game Plan. Welcome to the program, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for having us.
Hey, so Ryan, let's start with you and give us a little bit about your background, what your practice area is. I know you have a consulting and a college planning practice, so give us a little bit of your bio and background and then one piece of information that led you to think about why this book should be written at this time.
Sure. Thanks, Mike. Dan and I, we're both independent college planners, and we met one day at a conference of college planners, and we just hit it off, and we thought, hey, let's write a book together. And we wanted to write a book that wasn't out in the marketplace. We wanted to write something that was different, that was unique. And Dan and I both are independent college planners, and we both have worked with thousands of families throughout the United States over the last decade. And we wanted to help our parents and students with navigating the whole entire college process. So we developed this book to help parents with collecting and organizing and even helping them figure out how to pay for college, which isn't out there in the marketplace. So I'm not sure if that answered your question, Mike, but that's a little bit about how we met and how we got started writing this book. Dan, you want to go ahead and kind of explain your background as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Again, having spent the last 11 years in the college process or the college planning arena, I personally knew that there needed to be something where a book could come together. And as Ryan said, we had an opportunity to meet at an event. Really hit it off well, and the more we got to talking, the more we realized there wasn't a book out there that really encompassed all of the college process, meaning giving timelines, giving really concrete advice on how you're going to pay for college in the admissions process and every step of the admissions process. And so Ryan and I spent a year and a half, a labor of love, really putting together this book so that we could come up with a game plan that anybody could follow, no matter where they are in the college process, to really help them connect the dots on everything that has to be done. And so that's how College and Beyond, or the college entrance game plan came about.
The thing that jumps out at me from what both of you said is you guys didn't just say, hey, I'm a parent and we've figured out this tip or this trick and we wrote a little book to teach you the same thing. You guys have vast experience working in this arena, 10 plus years each, and being able to say we're drawing from experiences that we have noticed our clients and our families and our parents have worked with and help them navigate through, and it just becomes so much part of your day that it just kind of expanded to let's put it all into this game plan. And I love the name. I love words like system or blueprint, because a game plan, boy, that really makes you feel like it's a plan and it's a strategy and it's a system. So can you, Ryan, can you speak to a little bit about how the book talks about everything from a 30,000-foot view, but also wraps it up into a plan of action?
Yeah, it's a great point, Mike. We wanted to write a book where it's a one-stop shop, if you will, or step-by-step system that parents and students can use, because the college planning process has become so complicated and so competitive now, and parents are getting bombarded with advice from many different sources, from the internet, from their high school guidance counselors. And many of these parents and students, when they come meet with us personally, they're just overwhelmed and don't know where to start and don't know which direction to go or who to follow. So we wanted to show parents and students, hey, this is how you do it. Like you said, we've been doing this for over a decade and worked with thousands of students. So we know exactly what you should do and when you should do it. And we wanted to put this book together to help parents and students make this process so much easier. And we give them the timelines. So we start from 7th grade all the way through till the end of high school, through the end of 12th grade. And we give you monthly timelines. We give you checklists. We give you the advice that we use every day with our own coaching, consulting clients that are proven strategies that actually work because we use it every day. So we will definitely, you're definitely going to get some great information out of this book that it's, like you said, just not, hey, we did a little research and put this together. No, this is proven strategies Dan and I have used on a day-to-day basis, and it works. And that's what's so great about this.
I think a lot of people, everyone is different. We know that. But I think when it comes to something like college planning and what to do and where to start, wouldn't you agree, and Dan, this is a great question for you since this is something that you even touched on too, wouldn't you agree that when a parent feels overwhelmed, that when they can be told, come alongside, let me show you what I know, let me help you along the process, I'm right here with you, but when they get a timeline, when they get a checklist, how much of a relief have you seen in your clients and parents you've worked with when they say, I can do this, and it's almost like they're holding in their hand this checklist, and it's like, I can do this, I can do number one, I can then move to number two. Doesn't it take that advice and strategy and just bring it to life with some simplicity and clarity?
Well, it does, Mike. I mean, let's face it, the entire college process has gotten so much more complicated. Ryan and I hear about it all the time from our clients when these families come in or, they've gotten such a barrage of information, whether it's from the media or from other parents who are trying to help. But the reality is what it does is it just complicates everything. And so the truth is that we're in a situation where because of the complication of the process, Ryan and I decided to give them a very, very easy process that they could follow if they just, take the time to do it. Because let's face it, the other problem that we've got out there, both with the students and the parents, is that everybody's busy. And it's one of those situations where they've got to stop. They need to take a look at the options that we put down into this book. And if they follow it to the letter, they absolutely will take away the stress and anxiety that normally goes along with the college process.
I've got a copy of it here, so you guys were kind enough to send me a copy, and I'm seeing through here exactly what you're saying, which is a checklist. And here's one chapter called Crucial College Checklists, and there's literally 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 points with a checkbox, and it becomes a workbook that you can work through. And then even in the table of contents, one of you had just mentioned 7th grade. Well, I want to ask this question in a moment of when should you be starting, because 7th grade, gracious, that sounds really early, right? But I'm sure you can speak to how starting earlier will prepare you even better. But I want to finish this point. In your book, you've got 7th grade organizational timeline, 8th grade, and moving all the way through. Well, these timelines and checklists really give the feeling that you can do it. Here's why you need to do these things, and then here's the checklist for where you are right now. So I really, really applaud you for taking that approach in the book. But let's speak to right now, Ryan, if you can talk about college. Shouldn't I just take the ACT and the SAT in my sophomore year, and that's when I'm going to start thinking about it. Why in the world are we thinking about college at 7th grade?
Yeah, it's a wonderful point, Mike. I have a middle schooler now. I'm in the midst of working with my son who's in 7th grade, and to him, the whole college process seems like it's 30 years away. But as parents, we know it comes really, really quick.
Yeah.
And we get involved with extracurricular activities, and we get involved with school, and next thing you know, he's a sophomore or junior in high school, and we go, wow, we need to catch up. The college is here.
Yeah.
But if college has certain deadlines. Think of this like dominoes. And as kids, we played with dominoes, and we lined them up correctly, and we knocked them down. It makes a beautiful design, and we're happy. But if we don't line up the dominoes just right, or if the dominoes are spaced too far away, all the dominoes don't fall when we knock them down, and so we're disappointed. And that's just like college planning. If we do this right and we set up the dominoes correctly, we're going to be happy at the end. And that's why you want to start early, because it's really easy to miss a very important step. And most parents and students can lose thousands, and I've seen this, thousands and thousands of dollars just because they've rushed through the process and forgot to do a very important step. So that's why we wanted to say, hey, it's not too early to start in 7th grade. Now, we're not going to put too much pressure on a 7th grader or 8th grader and say, hey, you got to do all this, because we don't want to put too much pressure on them and start thinking about it. But at the same time, we want to drip a little bit and put it in their head to say, hey, you are expected to go to college, and these are some things you can do between now and then to kind of get started, just kind of start thinking about it. And then we ramp it up as he or she gets closer to the junior and senior years. You can see through the timeline.
Sure.
And not only that, one thing I did want to mention is that this book is not only for 7th, 8th, 9th. I mean, if your son or daughter is a senior and you're just getting started, that's exactly why we put that page in there that you were stating. We wanted to say, hey, if you're just getting started and you're late in the process, this is the minimum you need to do. These are the steps you have to do. So it's really for anyone that has a middle schooler all the way to high school. If you're late in the process, early in the process, we got you covered in this book.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I think that we could probably make a lot of applications personally, professionally, business to, if you start addressing a problem on the front end before it gets to be out of control, you have a lot more rational thought. You have a lot more opportunity to kind of pivot and bob and weave. And I'm sure that you could even, and either one of you, jump in here and answer this question. Can you think of an example of a time that you were working with a family and something you noticed that maybe could have fallen through the cracks, but you picked up on it, had them do this thing, and because they did that, it saved them a chunk of money because, wow, we almost missed this or we didn't take advantage of that?
Yeah, well, let me jump in on giving you an idea on that. So, every single school is different, for example, when it comes to how they handle giving out their scholarships. And I'm always amazed, even after meeting with families or giving them guidance and direction and saying, hey, you've got to do your homework. You've really got to research this. In other words, does the application that you submit count as the only ticket that you need to be able to qualify for that scholarship? Or is there a secondary application that you need to fill out? But, so recently when I was talking to a family, we discovered that unfortunately the student hadn't gotten around to filling out that secondary application for the scholarships. And so guess what? Unfortunately, they put themselves in the jeopardy with that school. Now, the good news is they had followed my direction and had other schools to pursue and had already pursued those scholarships. But what I'm telling you, Mike, is that there are just so many intricacies. Every single school is different, for example, when it comes to how they hand out their money. Some it's guaranteed based on the ACT and GPA. In other cases, again, it requires a separate application. And that's just one example of all the little components that have to come together so that at the end of the day, you're putting your student and your family in the best position so that they really hit the 4 things that we're trying to help them do, which is a school has to be the right fit academically, financially, socially, and geographically. And if you accomplish all 4 of those, then you're going to be in a great position when the student ultimately goes off to college, because we want them to thrive, not just survive.
Excellent. So far we've talked about how the book is structured into some of these timelines and checklists, 7th grade through 12th grade, and how, it's wonderful to start early, but don't feel like you all is lost if you're in your junior or senior. If your child is junior or senior, there still is some wonderful tips and strategies to implement even now. So that's a really, really big takeaway. I noticed that Chapter 11 is talking about career and college major search. Ryan, can you speak to why that is important to be thinking about on the front end? And then you kind of hear about some students that, they're halfway through their freshman year and they still don't know what they want to be when they grow up, and how that can kind of cause not only turmoil, but even financial impact.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I meet with my students and parents, and a lot of my parents are in their mid-40s and 50s, and they'll say, Ryan, I still don't know what I want to do for a living. And so it's kind of funny. And so it's hard to expect a 15, 16, 17-year-old to know exactly what they want to do at that age. But at the same time, here's some sobering statistics. We know that on average, 80% of students change their major in college. and the average student changes their major at least 3 times in college. So if you haven't done any type of career aptitude planning, most young men and women are going to college and they just have no idea of what they might want to do. Of course, they know of being a doctor and being a dentist and an engineer and a lawyer, but there's so many other careers and so many other majors that they need to be exposed to, because if they don't, they're going to just spend years and years and years in college trying to figure that out. And that's not necessarily bad, but if you can reduce the chance of that happening, you're going to save yourself a lot of time and a lot of money. And that's why we want to try to help them identify some of those careers, identify all the careers, all the majors that fit their personality, their skill set, what they like to do, what they don't like to do, at least give them some direction or plan B. Even the young men and women who know exactly what they want to do, sometimes when they go to college, it's not exactly what they expect it to be. It's a little bit different. And so they end up changing majors. And so they need a plan B as well. Right, so those are a few of the little steps that we need to do that parents don't put a lot of emphasis on while in high school. That if they spend a little time, a little money, do some type of career aptitude test, use the book that we just talked about, the College Interest Game Plan, to help them, it can literally save them hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases of college. So it's very, very important.
Wow, that's really unbelievable. That, I mean, when you say hundreds of thousands of dollars, I mean, it could be $15,000, and that's a chunk of change. I mean, that's really interesting that sometimes it's those little things that make such a big difference.
Right.
So what would you say then is, we could probably talk for hours on end on, budget and scholarships and funding, but what are some of the first things to take into consideration regarding even preparation? Meaning, hey, some parents might say, we don't make enough money, so we can't do X, or we make too much money, so we can't do Y. What are some things that way, Dan, if you could speak to some of those considerations financially as people start thinking about, funding college?
Well, there's no doubt that one of the biggest challenges that faces families is that they sort of kind of never got around to talking about how they're going to pay for it. College sneaks up on them. I mean, they just didn't do and weren't able to do any planning for whatever reason, because of life choices or because of events that happen in life. And so, for example, Ryan and I absolutely believe that you've got to be talking about the money. And the best way to do that, of course, is to deal with the expected family contribution. And there's some websites out there that make it very easy for a family to plug in their numbers and to be able to see what exactly are the colleges going to expect us as a family to pay to send little Sally or little Joey to college. And the question I always say, on that is, when do you want to know that number? And, of course, the answer is as soon as possible. Yeah. Because if not, you're going to deal with the shock and awe that comes later in the process if you waited or procrastinated to get around to figuring that out. And so that then leads into the next part of it, which is, okay, now that we understand what they're expecting us to pay, and we as a family have had what we call the money talk as to, what we might be able to do to help you, the student, pay for college. Now it's the right time to go looking for colleges that fit, again, financially into our picture, so that we're not visiting schools that are unrealistic for all kinds of reasons.
And Mike, to add to that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. That's great, Ryan.
Yeah, to add to what Dan was saying is that we have a whole chapter on the expected family contribution, and we show you exactly line by line how you can calculate that on your own. So you don't necessarily have to go to a website. You certainly can. But if you really want to get into it, we have a whole chapter, and it takes you detail by detail how the federal government and some of the colleges calculate that expected family contribution number. So it's for the engineers, it's for the parents that really want to know that information. We have that information in there. And not only that, most parents don't understand that not every college has the same type of financial aid that they give out. So it's very important for students and parents to understand the financial aid system, how it works, the definitions, the different types of financial aid. There's need-based aid, there's merit-based aid, there's outside or private scholarships, and of course we have the college's own money. And so when parents think about financial aid, they don't think about all these different forms of financial aid. They just think necessarily either scholarships or need-based aid. And that's obviously part of it, but not all of it. And if you can figure out a way to eliminate colleges that aren't going to give you the financial aid because it doesn't match the type of aid that children are qualified for, boy, that was going to really help you also identify colleges, on the other hand, that will give you aid. Maybe it's merit-based aid. Maybe it's the college's own money, right? If you can hone in on that, if you can focus in on those colleges, now you can really reduce the cost of college. And now you're putting a plan in place, as we mentioned before, that's not only a good social fit, but a good academic fit and a good financial fit. And that makes a great college financial plan.
I almost feel like we can just end this right here, right now. That was just such a great point and great speech. That's awesome. It made me think of a couple questions. If expected family contribution, the EFC calculator, whenever you think about a calculator or a checklist or something like that, it makes me wonder, is there a way to optimize or enhance or whatever you want to call it, or a hack or tips or tricks? Like, for instance, if your family contribution is higher or lower, it's going to affect what you can get. I'm sure that is correct. But are there some things in your book that you talk about that say, hey, this impacts expected family contribution this way, but if you can do these things, it's going to help you out? And are there some things that are kind of not as much well known that parents could do or be doing that would impact the family contribution and prepare them better for, merit-based aid or scholarships?
Well, I mean, there are definitely lots and lots of strategies and techniques that we've talked about in our book because the fact of the matter is every family is unique. Think about it. They have different income. They have different savings set aside. But there are four primary keys to the expected family contribution. It's mom and dad's income, mom and dad's assets, the student's income, and the student's assets. And each of those four areas, of course, have an impact on the expected family contribution. Without a doubt, there are some things that families don't even realize that they need to do to try to position their students and the parents to be in the best place to reduce their expected family contribution. And so we do indeed talk about those kinds of strategies in our book. In addition to that, there may be places where sometimes families need additional help to talk through those kinds of things because, again, of the unique position that they're in. And those are places where, Ryan and I, even through the book, offered all kinds of bits of information or tips as you go through it, but also give them the ability, if they have additional questions, that they can reach out to us. Because we truly, when we built this book, wanted to give folks the roadmap that they could follow to give them the bulk of the information, but there are going to be some situations where we may not be able to give them clarity unless we know all the facts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. Another thing that made me think of too, everybody is unique, everybody is different, and every school is different. And I think Ryan even mentioned in one of his points, one school might look at merit-based aid or financial aid one way, and then another school might look at it another way. So there's so many things that are moving targets that it's not just let me fill out a form and submit and now here we go. Which kind of brings me to my next thought, which is I know you talk about in your book scholarships and searches and things like that. It seems like, even on Shark Tank a couple seasons ago, there was someone that put together a college scholarship app. And I know if you Googled online, there's all kinds of things that could frankly probably get you pretty confused. Is there any relevancy in some of these search tools for scholarships, or are you just kind of spinning your wheels and, hey, if this place is giving a scholarship, if you submit this essay, is there some things that would be worth a student's time to look at and then some that might not be worth time?
Well, Pete, great question, and that's probably a whole hour discussion that we can get into that, and I appreciate the question. One point I would like to make when it comes to those private or outside scholarships, sometimes colleges will reduce your need-based aid dollar for dollar if you do receive those outside scholarships. So let's say a college offered you a $20,000 scholarship, and your son and daughter was really great and diligent, and they started applying to some private scholarships or outside scholarships, And they also got $20,000 from the local grocery store that they worked with, right? Well, some colleges will look at that and go, hey, I see you got $20,000 from the grocery store. We're going to reduce our aid dollar for dollar accordingly.
That's not good.
And that is not good. And again, these are the types of information that we put in our book to say, hey, you need more information, because did we just waste our time filling out all these scholarship applications? Maybe the college that you're applying will add, the outside scholarship to your financial aid package, and that happens sometimes. But you need to know that ahead of time, and that's one of the things we put in our book. When you go on these college visits, you should ask this on your college visits. How many parents and students are doing that? Not many.
I would say that they wouldn't even, it's like the old saying, you don't know what you don't know.
I don't think that's right.
I mean, who would know what you just said? I mean, they would think, I got this, X number of dollars from this place, and then you go to the school and they say, reduce, deduct, and at that point you're going, wow, if I had only maybe known one thing or the other. So I love when I hear things like this, when you've put together, a checklist and a guide and a roadmap, and hold the parent's hand and say, don't worry, we can get through this together. Here's what you need to know. Here's why it's relevant, and here's the steps to take. So, to me, having a book is wonderful, but it doesn't do much unless you do something with the knowledge. Like implemented knowledge is the true power, not just the knowledge. So you guys short of driving to someone's house and doing it for them, here's the book, but then you're helping with that implementation because you're making it simple to see that roadmap and game plan and checklist. And I just love how that really just feels like it is such a much more impactful book. So let's wrap up with each of you just kind of, what are some closing thoughts? What are some encouragements of what a parent should pull out of this book? Who should come and buy the book? And then what's the next step? So Dan, let's start with you. And what are some final thoughts that way?
There are going to be people that are going to listen to this interview and go, are we too late to the game? And Ryan and I will tell you straight up that you're never too late to step in and use a book like this to put the pieces of the puzzle together. The biggest fear that happens a lot of times for families is, that they've procrastinated or that they don't have enough money. And we're here to tell you that the opportunity really exists if you will just sit down and do the work. And that the work includes, having your student look for scholarship opportunities out there, completing the essays and the applications in a timely fashion, and truly following this roadmap that we've created, that success can be accomplished. You will get to the point where you can find a school that'll be the right fit for you in all the areas we've talked about. And so my encouragement to anybody out there is don't be afraid to step in and do something, because it's better than looking in the mirror in the future and going, I coulda, shoulda, woulda, and having nothing but a life of regrets. So, we hope that you'll pick up a copy of our book, and based on that, just really have a great process to be able to follow so that you can successfully get to that goal of your dreams. Excellent. Thank you, Dan. Brian, closing thoughts?
Yeah, when Dan and I were going back and forth and saying, okay, what is out there? Where can we fill the gap? What is needed in the marketplace? We came up with this idea of a book that we could hand our clients, our coaching clients, and say, hey, bring this with you every time you come with us. Because this book is not only going to help you, step by step through the process, it's also a book to help you collect information, help you pull all the information you're going to need when it comes time to fill out those applications, to start this process. So it is a step-by-step process, guideline, timeline, but it also helps you collect and get organized and reduce the stress of the whole college process. So it's a workbook as well as a timeline, if you will. And to me, and my parents and my students absolutely love it, because we can look and say, okay, this is what I want you to do next month, or this is what I want you to do next week. And the parents, you can see the stress relief just go off their face, because they go, okay, good, we know what to do. My son or daughter knows what to do. And we can break this work up over the course of time and it makes the whole process so much more enjoyable for the parents and students. So again, it's just not a step-by-step process. It's a book. It's a working document where you can put things in. You can we have information about your college visits where you can go in and grade each of the colleges and put your thoughts down on paper, what you thought about College B versus College A. And again, we can go on and on and on. We talk about AP courses and CLEP courses and what's the difference and why you should look at both. And again, those are things that parents haven't even thought about. They don't even know what CLEP classes and courses are, but we put those little nuggets in there to help students and parents with just gaining that knowledge, reducing the cost of college. So I'm really, really excited about the book. My parents and students absolutely love it. And, of course, the high schools that I go to and speak to, they see the book. They love it as well. And I hope your students and your parents and your audience will like it as well.
Well, gentlemen, I know I have learned some nuggets, and I think we could have spoken for about 3.5 more hours and still be scratching the surface. And Ryan, like your point said, some of these little, CLEP and these little hacks and tips and tricks, that is something that parents and grandparents even of college-bound students need to go and buy the book. So thank you both for coming on the show. We'll make sure that we have direct links in the show notes so people can go right and buy the book, but it is available on Amazon and available on both of your websites. So Ryan Clark with Clark College Funding Incorporated, Dan Bisig with College and Beyond LLC, and I'll just read your website so people can go there as well, but I'll make sure we have this in the show notes. But you can visit Ryan Clark's website at collegeaidformiddleclass.com and Dan's website at collegeandbeyondllc.com. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. It was wonderful getting to know you and your wonderful book.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.